the brief recap of Mandalorian Chapter 15, Season 2, Episode 7 is, well, it's called The Believer, right? And that's a pretty exciting title just to begin with. And as you can guess if you've watched the previous episode, it has a lot to do with Mayfield and figuring out where the heck this adorable feller is. And luckily, which I know is a huge concern out of a lot of people, that the entire episode was just going to be a prison break getting Mayfield out of prison, and that was going to be like kind of a major letdown, like just like a huge stressing. You're like, I just want to know where he is, right? But it actually, the first like what 30 seconds of the show, boom,
Yeah.
Mayfield got him done with prison, and you're like, huh, okay. But there is still a little bit more of figuring out where Moff Gideon is. That's what most of the episode takes place about, and they go to a little abandoned Imperial plant that's full of ISB agents, so that's kind of fun. A little tie in there. And Mayfield, of course, is ex-Imperial, so they're using him to try and figure out how to be able to get the codes and the coordinates to where Moff Gideon is. So Mando and our buddy Mayfield sneak in and try and infiltrate, well, exporting a bunch of Rydonium, which is a super volatile explosive substance, and of course they get attacked by pirates, because why would anything be easy? And after they are heroes basically and make it to this, and Mando can't obviously walk into a giant Imperial thing donning his Beskar armor. That would look kind of weird. So he puts on some pretty cool, like kind of green gray shore trooper armor. They end up working it out, getting the stuff. Mayfield shoots his old boss because, I mean, he was kind of a dick, so I mean, that's fair. But shoots his boss, and then there's a super awesome escape. Boba Fett, of course, swoops in, saves the day, gets them off, and they let Mayfield go. The original agreement was that he would return to prison, and he still helped, which is really cool that Mayfield was willing to help, with that. But they're kind of like, oh yeah, Mayfield died in an accident, and he's like, what? And they're like, just leave, moron. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go. And then it ends actually in a super, super cool way where Mando is able to send a hologram to Moff Gideon, and he repeats basically the original message that Moff Gideon gives him at the end of season 1, episode 7, or, chapter 7, where Moff Gideon explains that he has the child, or that Mando possessing the child is something that is super important to Moff Gideon and Mando could never understand. So he repeats that exact same thing back to Moff Gideon. It's a very cool parallel and fantastic, of course. Unfortunately, this is the first episode of The Mandalorian where you don't see Grogu. And
Mm,
despite that, it was fantastic. I was a
yeah.
little worried. I was like, I just want to see him. I don't actually care how good it is.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was fantastic. And, well, I guess we're probably going to go through linearly and talk about just kind of what happened. So, just overall reaction, Cody. What do you got? Just
Oh man. Um. Yeah. So first things first, like you said, I was very happy that it wasn't going to be a prison break. Although it kind of ended up being pretty similar.
right,
Them trying to escape once it got into the Imperial plant, but um, no, overall, it was just an awesome episode and a great lead up. And I wasn't a big fan of Mayfield's character in the first season, and this left me saying, "Wait, no, I want him to go with the crew. I want him to be part of the team now," because I loved his acting in this. I loved the character development
right,
and seeing him kind of being a punk and like obviously betraying Mando in the first one, season one, to like seeing that he has pain and he apparently lost a bunch of friends to the Empire, and that's where this bitterness comes in and the look on his face, everything. Anyways, his character was the highlight of this for me, seeing the development of that. So I thought it was a great episode. Obviously, there's millions of awesome things from it, but overall, just it was
was it your
brilliantly
favorite part
written.
though?
It was my favorite. No, but it was my it wasn't my favorite scene. That was my I don't know. I think it was part of what made this episode though so awesome, right? Like the other things were really fun, and those were my
Right,
favorite parts. But his character development is what made me really be like, this episode was well written.
for sure. Yeah, I think there's two parts to a lot of Star Wars shows. There's the wow, this was really well written. They explored different topics. The character development was really good. The shots were breathtaking, etc. That's what makes Star Wars really fun is when it's well written. And then there's the other aspect where in the first like 10 seconds of the show we see Boba Fett come up in some freaking clean armor. Bro paints it like a matte green, cleans it all up. It looks so good, especially with his black robes underneath. I mean, I don't know. He never freaking painted his armor for the other 20 years, but this time he's like, no, I need to fix it.
I think it was like you don't know what you got till it's gone. And now that he's had to live without it, he's like, I am never taking this for granted again. I'm gonna paint you up, baby. Probably had some intimate moments on the ships, and you know, he
I do
cuddled
think
with
it's
it at
funny.
night,
They're like, all right,
painted
we
it
need to go
up.
find this guy. And he's like, all right, autopilot,
One sec.
be back. I'm going to go paint this.
Yeah,
Needs a
dude.
little buff and shine. He looks so
There's
good.
millions of different Mandos and different looking
For sure.
armor, and even just that fans have come up with. But in the shows, oh, excuse me, it's late. It's late. Um, but I don't think I've ever seen a cooler looking Mandalorian outfit. Period. End of story. I mean,
Yeah, I
ugh,
mean, we always talk about like, oh, who should we cosplay as? I mean, Cody and I both haven't ever been able to cosplay. But it's something, of course, a lot of Star Wars fans look into. So we're like, I really would want to do this. Who would you get? Would you get a stormtrooper? Blah 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 blah. But like after seeing Boba Fett in his new armor, it's like,
ugh,
oh, that might be the clear and obvious winner.
he
But
was so sick.
so that was one of those parts that like, holy crap, that was so cool. Not necessarily great writing, not bad writing, but
Yeah,
like not
just
like Mayfield's
showy and
character development.
beautiful.
And then they freaking dropped a seismic charge, which was again, did it really make sense to drop a seismic charge right there to blow up two TIE fighters? Hell no. But was it awesome?
Oh, it was
Yes.
the greatest thing
Did I
I've
like
ever seen in
jump
my
out of my
life.
seat literally? Yes.
Actually, we're gonna have to probably go back on the live stream and highlight that because me and you were freaking out when that
Because it
happened.
just it drops to what the seismic charge actually looks like, not before it goes off or they drop it or anything. But when they just set it up, Cody and I are like, I literally jump up in my chair like, right, flipping out. I'm like, oh my god!
You said, and you said too, you're like, you don't think, and I was like, immediately when you said that, I was like, I knew where you're going with. I'm like, no way,
Yeah,
no.
because it's like
If
they
they
wouldn't
do
do that.
this, if
Yeah, I
they
think you're
do
literally in the
this,
middle of
I'm
saying
going
like,
to
if they
cry.
do this, I'm gonna freak, and then all of a sudden it jumps to it,
And
and we're
then
like,
it shows.
so did that really make sense? No,
Oh,
but was it fantastic? Absolutely,
oh my gosh, dude!
absolutely. So
Just to hear that sound again.
it was great. So it was overall a very fun episode, and it was kind of cool because I cannot say his name worth a crap, but Rick
From
Fumiyama,
Moria, or
Fumiyama, something along those lines. We're gonna like re-edit over that. No, we won't. But he was the guy who directed the Prisoner last time around. So the other episode with Mayfield, and it was kind of cool. They got to work with Mayfield twice, and also do both kind of as a Prison Break esque style episodes. And I thought that was really cool. And he did a great job. Um, but I guess I don't have a shot of Boba Fett. Probably should have. That was a mistake. But anyways, it was. I thought it was super cool. I guess. Oh, I wanted to talk about. So when it opens, Mayfield is kind of doing some manual labor for his prison sentence. So
yeah,
we're gonna share the screen real quick. And wow, holy screen on screen on screen. And I thought it looked a ton like this moment right here.
yeah,
We
a
got
little junkyard of.
we got a junkyard vibe, which was really cool because that was, I guess, Cal Kestis. He was taking apart. There you see the event, old starship from the Republic era, right? And I thought it was really
Yeah,
cool that we got to see that, and that's what Cal Kestis did, and that was his job. It wasn't like manual labor; he wasn't in prison or anything, but that was the job, was disassembling, scrapping, all this stuff, which seems to be a common theme. Even Rey's a scrapper, though she's just more doing it for spare parts. This is like, seems like in Cal's case it was an operation, and then Mayfield's case he's doing the exact same thing, but they're scrapping Tie fighters and things like that from, no shocking, the Rebellion War and the Empire era. So I thought that was like a cool sort of connection, and we got to see these guys again. They're the security droids, also from
yeah.
episode 5. Yes, episode 5, chapter 5 of The Mandalorian, The Prisoner. And I thought that was really cool to see them again. And I love that little, right here, our little New Republic stamp. They have one on the back too. I thought that was really cool. And I don't know, I just thought I'm liking the continuity, of course, of seeing things like
For
that.
sure. Probably see some of those droids in the Rangers of the New Republic or whatever show.
For sure, I'm expecting to see a lot of that. So, and then
Yeah.
something I think Cody and I thought was pretty interesting was, so of course they pick up Mayfield, and then we see Boba, and he looks sexy as all else, right? But after we pick up Mayfield, we have I think a really cool shot of them hanging out and just kind of talking, right, aboard the Slave One, which previously in the Slave One we've only ever seen the two front
The
seats. We know that it
cockpit,
has
right?
two front seats in the cockpit, right? And but obviously the ships in Star Wars are very large generally, and they have a lot of other rooms. Usually like Mando's ship, even though on the smaller side it has like 4 seats in the cockpit, it has a lower area with some sleeping bunks, like an armory, etc. So it's really cool to see the Slave One, which is obviously a large ship, to see, I guess, the other areas of it. You know what I mean?
Little lounge area.
The lounge area. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and then how it freaking rotated with the ship because that's something I've always thought about too, and like that's definitely probably my favorite ship in all of Star Wars. But like you said, when we see it in Attack of the Clones, Boba's actually sitting down like this, shooting. He's trying to look over, So to see like when the ship comes up to the vertical, to see that thing just rotates so that the people never have to go from sitting comfortably just upright. That was so freaking cool. It reminded me of like the GoPros, the stabilization.
Yeah, no,
How
it's
the
like totally like that.
camera
Like a
rotates with.
gyroscoping feature where it sits within like presumably another ring. I mean, they didn't go into the exact details, but I'm sure there'll be a book about it. And it rotates as the
Yeah,
ship rotates, and it was really cool. You can actually see it kind of spinning on the outside in the shots, and it was just super cool because, like you're saying, like
yeah,
you see Boba Fett trying to be like, I can't see anything, and you have to assume with the fact that it's probably one of the only ships in Star Wars that switches, that there need to be something
right.
that wasn't awful. Like if all of Boba Fett's stuff just like fell over this way and then fell back over
Every
this way,
time,
every
right?
it'd be the stupidest ship in the
And it
world.
would be a terrible.
Boba
Yeah,
Fett's just like, I
no,
need
for
another
sure.
ship. Like it's my dad's,
Think
but
about,
ugh.
yeah.
He's a
Well, imagine
moron.
imagine him taking Han and Carbonite, and he's just like,
I actually wish it didn't because
he's
I want
like,
that video of
sorry,
Han just going bam, bam,
sorry,
bam, 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 bam. Boba Fett's
sorry, Jabba. He's a little
like his
cracked,
nose
but
is broken off or whatever when he
yeah.
delivers him to Jabba. Sorry, my ship.
But no, but that is Tim. I want to know exactly who came up with that idea. Seriously, because that is like something that I just like your imagination to come up with that. Like someone to sit down and like figure that. It's just I don't know. That's so cool.
And it brought me a
I
lot
love
to,
it.
I think, episode 1 and episode 2, or chapter 1 and chapter 2 of The Mandalorian. For me, and know for a lot of people, I know with Cody when we were watching it together, that it was almost more cool to see some of these like things that someone went, well, what does it look like inside? Well, how does this work in Star Wars? Be in the Mandalorian, and just small nuanced ways. Like in chapter 2, we see Mando hang out with some Jawas in a sandcrawler. And we've seen, the inside the storage room of a
Right.
sandcrawler, but what does the cockpit look like? Does that matter? Not really. But was it super cool to see? Yeah, it freaking was. And the same thing
Yeah.
where it's
One
like,
of the.
does this matter? No, not really. But someone sat there and went, what we should do? We should show this, right? Like,
And
here you go.
that's a detail that only someone who like loves Star Wars is gonna really say we should add this. Someone who's just passionate. Like that's
Right.
something that a fan. And I don't know. I love that. That's just amazing.
I know I think when I saw it in the show, Cody and I were talking, we're like, oh my gosh, so cool, because like us watching a TV show basically is just talking over it. But uh, I was like, I want to marry John. I love him. Favreau's amazing. But the two
Yeah.
of them, John Favreau and Dave Filoni, has been such an amazing combination. And I know
I
if
know.
you have paid attention to social media at all, you're going to find out that John Favreau and Dave Filoni are partnering again on two new TV shows, both spun off in the time of The Mandalorian. One about Ahsoka, shocker. Can't believe they totally set her up in the live action to only
Right.
spin her off into a TV show. I never thought that was going to happen. Oh, wait. Yeah, pretty sure we all did. And then we got Rangers of the New Republic. So
Yeah.
a lot of people are predicting Cara Dune might, make more of an appearance in that show. So it'll be interesting. But I'm just happy that they're working together. And that, I mean, Whether it was Favreau who wrote it down, whether it was Filoni, whether it was, the guy who works on the camera crew, like whoever thought this up, things like this, I just like the crew they have, and they're churning out great Star Wars content frequently, right?
Okay.
Then they go to Morak, and I thought this was really cool. They bring up something called Rydonium, which, have you ever heard of Rydonium, Cody?
Off the top of my head.
So Rydonium is actually fairly frequented in Star Wars history, Star Wars lore. Believe it or not, here's a pretty good shot of some Rydonium. We got
There
our
you go.
girl Sabine Wren. She has a quote of talking about how she wants to introduce some Imperial officers to her favorite, her oldest and most volatile friend, Rydonium. But it actually makes an appearance in
Wow.
the Clone Wars, in Rebels, some comics, etc. It's known to be very explosive material, and that's I mean, it doesn't always come in a nice red barrel, but they actually had a similar shot in The Mandalorian. So I thought that was really cool that we're exploring the same sort of concept with just like Star Wars materials with her Rydonium, etc. And then
Continuity is amazing.
for sure. So I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I can't believe so to get in they have to Mando has to take off his helmet. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
Or well, he's like, all right, well, no one else can go in. I'll do it. And you're like, oh, he's gonna take off his helmet. And then he's like, psych, I just put on a shore trooper helmet. And you're like, huh, creative.
There you go. Okay.
It looks
But
so
then,
trippy though, seeing him like that though.
yeah, I was like, if it wasn't for Pedro Pascal's voice being so distinctive at this point, you wouldn't even really believed it was him. But
For sure.
I
And
don't
I
know.
just thought of something where you're talking about Mayfield's character development because he starts out, kind of like a punk or whatever. And like I was talking, I was like, Bill Burr's comedy, like I think it's funny, but like I don't like listening to it too much or whatever because I feel like it can be a little over the top or a little annoying sometimes. But um, I think in this sort of thing where like the last season, I was like, he had some funny parts and like had like kind of a fun swagger to him. But he was definitely the
Yeah.
bad guy, right? And he was kind of
Right.
he was punking on Mando a lot, and it was
At the
kind of, and you're
beginning,
kind of
right?
just like, I'm just trying to figure out if I like Mando or not because he doesn't talk that much. So it's hard to really get a vibe on his character. Like we're still trying to figure out Mando, so like him punking him all the time was like really kind of rough. But I was thinking his character development is very similar to I think what we're seeing of like Boba Fett, almost right. Boba Fett is he's kind of a punk. He's like a bad guy. He's a bad kid. He's trying to freaking kill Mace Windu for like most of his teenage years.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it really wasn't about like, oh, I hate people or like, I hate Han Solo or I'm a bad guy. I'm working for the Empire. It was like, I'm just doing what I need to get by, right? I'm a bounty hunter because that's what my dad was. That's all I really know. So that's what I'm gonna keep doing, right? And then Bill Burr, he was like, or I guess Mayfield is like, I joined the Empire. Tons of people joined the Empire. I watched all of my companions die practically in um, thanks to Operation Cinder, which was really cool that they brought Operation Cinder up.
That was cool.
Battlefront 2 connection, Aftermath connection, lots of things connections. Um, and he specifically mentions Borin. What was it called? I wrote it down. Oh, Burnin Khan, which is this planet right here.
Okay.
Um, it's actually not really mentioned in a whole lot of things. It's like mentioned, I believe, in Aftermath. This is actually shot from a mobile game that came out in like 2014, which is its first
Wow.
canon appearance actually. But yeah, it it's just kind of known as a place that has to go through. Operation Cinder, here's a shot from Battlefront 2 where the Empire basically goes and destroys their own planets. The idea is to put down thoughts of rebellion, thoughts of defiance, etc., and kind of wipe out any weaknesses of the Empire. And it's like super, super brutal and ends up being why a lot of people of the Empire defect or give up on the Empire, etc. And you see that it really bothered Bill Burr, right? He lost a lot of his people and he's like saw no point in it when it kind of left him to where he's like like you just need to do take care of you, and as long as you can sleep at night, that's what matters. So I thought that was
Yeah,
a
and
cool
then
connection.
along with that line too at the end, that's what he says back again to Mando when he decides to blow up the kind of the base at the end,
Right.
because his superior officer did say to him, with what you guys just delivered, we're going to be able to, do this more. We're going to be able to blow up more things. We're going to be able to decimate
Right.
more people. And so Bill Burr blows it up so that they can't. And he says that again, right? Like, Mayfield, sorry, says that again. Like, you can't. I just have to be able to sleep at night. So now he's saying it's not on my hands that the Empire's doing more bad things, and he's taking
Right.
care of that. So just kind of the ending of his character development is that, like, yeah, he's punking Mando and saying that, it doesn't matter if you're one side or the other, whatever. But in
Right.
the end, you realize no, he gets it and he knows what's wrong and right, and he has a conscience, and
Yeah, he
so that was cool to
definitely,
see.
he kind of puts that out there, like, he's like trying to make kind of like point out to Mando. I think trying to get a read on Mando, like, hey, like you believe this, other people believe that. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as you're comfortable with yourself or whatever, as long as you follow your
Right,
moral code. And I think that's kind of cool because, like, at the end of the day, he's not saying like, hey, the New Republic's correct. He punks on the New
right,
Republic a lot. He's like, the New Republic isn't correct. They're just ruling, and someone else is gonna rule later. It doesn't matter. But I know that if I don't do something about the Empire is going to do bad things. At least that this is bad, and that's where my line is. And I don't think the New Republic's right, but I just want to do what's good for me, and that's like I think fun characters in Star Wars that are like aren't necessarily good, aren't necessarily bad, but they recognize, like you're saying, they have some sense of morals that they're trying to
right.
follow, even though it might not be the morals that like our character, like the main characters, like follow, or like the Republic or New Republic. But to be fair, the New Republic is kind of trash, and I feel like no one views it in a positive light. They definitely kind of showcase that a lot in the Mandalorian, and even like comics and stuff that like kind of no one ever believed in the New Republic, which is very interesting.
Yeah, much shakier grounds, obviously, and that was even one of another line by Mayfield, right? Was something along the lines he kept saying everyone has a line that they don't cross
Right.
until they have to, or something, right?
Hmm.
And I think that was cool because you get to the point where, in the end, you see Din Djarin take off his helmet, and
Right. Not
that's a
even for
line
a
he wouldn't
second.
normally
Like,
cross. He leaves it off, yeah, um, to scan his face because, yeah, that's a line he won't cross. But part of it might have to do with the fact that he ran into Bo-Katan, who told him that not all Mandalorians keep their helmet on. But I think a majority of it was it's not a line he crosses, but for Grogu, he's
right.
willing to do it. And so that was his line. And then Mayfield ended up crossing his line when you could see it in his face. He couldn't take looking at his commanding officer any longer, and he just freaking shoots him.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, which
And I thought
was
that was kind of cool, though. One of
epic.
the things is he kind of punks on Mando. He's like, I thought you couldn't take your helmet off. Now you're just wearing a different helmet. That's not the same thing. He's like,
Yeah,
He's like, that's not
he's
the
like, so
same.
which
If you
is
said
it?
you couldn't take your helmet off, yeah, which one is it? Can you not show your face or whatever? But at
Or
the end of the
can you
day,
take your
like,
helmet off?
he shoots his officer, probably because, his officer's a tool and all that stuff. But he also takes out everyone in the room,
Was
hands
satisfying.
Din Djarin his helmet back, and he's like, hey, no one saw your face now, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of like a cool, like, you have whatever you think, and you did what you needed to do for this mission.
I
I'm
respect
a
that.
respect with what you went with, and, it just seemed like a cool moment of respect. Like, hey, like, I don't get it, and I don't understand it, but I'm cool with it. I'll
I know
try and
it's
help you do
important
it.
to you. And I think that was a big moment too, obviously for Mayfield being like, man, this guy's really serious about getting
But
this mission done. Like this is really
it's like,
important to
dude,
him.
have you seen him?
Yeah, I know, right? What lengths would you not go to for a Grogu?
Exactly. But that was like kind of interesting point
Yeah.
you brought up, and like and I was actually wondering during this, we're wondering about this during the episode, is when Mando meets Bo-Katan, he's like, "Huh, traitor, you're trash, right?" And Bo-Katan kind of explains a little bit that she's 100% Mandalorian, etc. But you're probably just part of something that doesn't quite make sense. What he is, necessarily, we're gonna find out. I'm guessing later, before I have a specific concrete answer to what kind of belief or
Right.
structure he follows of the Mandalorian Creed, etc. But then you see Boba Fett, right? We see Boba Fett in his sick armor, right? But we also see Boba Fett take off his helmet in the episode, kind of freak a couple times, and he discusses with them. And I'm kind of wondering, and I was wondering, like, well, obviously Boba Fett said, "I've never sworn the Mandalorian Creed. I don't swear my allegiance to anyone, etc." But at the same point, you kind of got to be wondering for Mando after meeting, Bo-Katan, Kosaka, Koska, all these guys, right? Boba Fett, etc. Is he kind of going, is is how I wear my helmet correct, or is there
Yeah,
times when it's okay, or you know, do I take it off only to save Grogu? Do I take it off around friends? Like where's the line here? I wonder, do you think he's having that, and do you think like his helmet will come off more in subsequent episodes? I mean, we're kind of at the end of the season, but moving into
yeah.
season three.
I think too. It's gotta make some sense to him that Django. He knows Django is a foundling now too, right?
Right.
So maybe seeing Boba take off his helmet, he's like, well, so did Django take off his? He's a foundling. Like, I don't know. It's interesting how, but yeah, I was gonna say that actually. I think this won't be the last time we see him without his helmet on. I think going forward we'll start to see it a lot more often, especially in season three. That's my guess because two reasons. One, because I just think it makes sense for him to kind of grow out of that and understand as he gets around more Mandalorians. And number two, I do think they're going to want Pedro Pascal to have that publicity of his face and showing him more just in the suit in general,
Right.
um, which I think would be cool. And I do think it's really cool how they've done it for 2 seasons now of him barely taking it off and still developed his character.
Hmm.
But I think you'll have more in season three.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I know there's rumors that they're gonna like actually move Pedro Pascal out of the suit entirely. Right. A lot of people are saying like, hey, we won't have to pay him money to because there's three people who wear the suit, right?
Right.
Which is kind of funny, right? Of course, and that's more work for the people, right? To have Pedro Pascal wear the walking around suit, and then they have the two different stunt people for the gunfighting versus physical combat, right? And
Yeah.
then Pedro Pascal, of course, does voiceover for everything. Um, but kind of moving forward like this is I have to think that he's going to be taking off his helmet more, and he's going to be more the Mandalorians we see in the Clone Wars and Rebels, right? Okay,
Right.
maybe Rebels might be a little bit more of a stretch because Sabine is running around with her helmet like off 90% of the time,
Never.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Never on.
But
but but more
yeah,
often.
for sure. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that progresses, and I'm happy with that because it would mean Pedro Pascal's in the suit more, and I think he just adds a lot to it. And the three people coming together in one, I know they talked about that in like the Mandalorian after show, right? Um, where it does add a unique kind of character to where they're all kind of working together to create one character together, those three guys. But I guess now it's off to finding Moff Gideon and getting Grogu back. I know a lot of people are out there going, I swear if we don't get Grogu back by the end of the season, like I'm gonna kill
Dude, I
somebody.
was thinking about
And I'm
that.
like,
Can you imagine if they made you
if
wait an entire season?
I literally think there would be riots. I literally think there would be riots.
Riots in the streets. This is not the way.
Honestly, like, can you imagine next week Moff Gideon escapes with Grogu?
Yeah, no, I
I
don't
can't
think
see
there's
that
any way
happening.
they're gonna do that.
It would just be absolutely
But
brutal.
but we do know there's obviously season three
Right.
around Christmas time next year, so they're probably gonna end with some sort of teaser, right? Like
Of
they did with the
course.
Dark Saber and Gideon Living last season. There's gonna be something, and yeah, it might not be um with Gideon escaping with Grogu, but there's gonna be something, and I don't know what else it would be, but
For sure.
uh,
Well, then here's, I think another important question is last week we saw Grogu go full like Super Saiyan or I don't know exactly. Giant energy beam meditation mode, unlocking new force powers. I have no idea what he was doing, right? I know Mallory actually
yeah,
compared it a lot to Fallen Order last week, where he was, like remembering stuff, and I thought that was like a cool comparison. But clearly,
yeah,
he reached out through the Force, and I can't imagine Jedi didn't hear him. Like that was one hell of a phone call. So, will we see a Jedi in Episode 8, and if so, who? Or
I don't know.
yeah,
I,
Episode 8, Chapter 16.
maybe that'll be the end reveal. Maybe episode will finish. There'll be like a you think the episode ends, goes black, and then just like the Moff Gideon
Right.
surviving scene, and then it shows a Jedi, you know, on his way or something. I don't know.
You gotta predict
That
too.
might be a cool.
Gotta predict
Uh,
too.
Well, here's the thing. I know the popular answer right now, everyone's been saying Ezra, but I don't think that's the case because I think that the Ahsoka spinoff, which is going to be taking place during the same time, is going to probably be them looking for Thrawn and Ezra. That's my thought, at least. So I don't think Ezra's back from that yet. I
You know,
think
I
that's
100% agree. I don't think it's Ezra at all. I
yeah,
think that'd be really weird because it'd
yeah.
basically have to gloss over that information, unless
So
we're
I
gonna
don't
jump
know.
back to Ahsoka and then go find
Yeah,
Thrawn and Ezra and then just be like, oh yeah, here's the backstory. And I just don't feel like we're gonna do that,
right,
especially because like they know what's going on. You know, like okay, sure, Ahsoka was officially announced today, but like Favreau and Filoni have known what's gonna happen, so I'm sure they weren't purposely, hey, we'll jump backwards. Like that doesn't seem likely. We will
right.
see Darth Vader. See this guy?
Yeah.
That would be funny. Darth Vader just walks up, everyone's like, uh, is this good or bad?
Yeah,
Not
I don't
sure.
know. I think if you do get a Jedi, Luke makes the most sense. And
So
I almost can't imagine them pulling that off and just keeping it quiet, but they kept Baby Yoda quiet, so I don't know. It's just
yeah, it's like Ahsoka
there's
didn't quite go quiet. I'm trying to think
yeah,
of
exactly.
big.
Ahsoka was all over the place, so
Is there anything
I don't know.
big that? I mean, okay, they didn't pull Thrawn on set or anything, but no one had any idea about Thrawn. That was pretty big.
That was cool. Do you think that we'll see a Jedi then? Do you or
I kind of have to believe we'll see a Jedi. The question is, I just don't know in what capacity. Part of me
yeah?
thinks that we'll see a Jedi about midway through the episode because I was predicting a similar sort of standoff to what we saw the end of Chapter 7, Chapter 8, where the good guys win. I mean, it's pretty common standoff. Good guys win, and then, oh crap, things get bad. Bad guys have the new cool gun or whatever, right? And the good guys need some sort of rallying force to fix it. In last season, that ended up being IG-11 was kind of like their fix all, and then the escape,
Savior, right?
right? So I guess I don't know. I just have to imagine one of the options would be a Jedi shows up and actually kind of saves the day, and then you kind of end on like the so what's the deal with the kid, like something like that. And of course, I don't think we're getting an answer to whether or not Grogu goes with a Jedi, which he definitely won't. But
Right.
I don't think we'll get an answer to that, and the Jedi will be some sort of connection to the cliffhanger, whether or not it's like fade to black and then all of a sudden Jedi's boots or what. Um, but to me, my favorite answer has to be Yoda appears to Grogu. Um,
That'd be cool. Force
one,
Ghost wise.
Force Ghost wise, yeah. I mean, unless Yoda's actually alive, in which case I have so many questions.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, so Force Ghost Yoda to me makes the most sense because one, obviously there's the connection to the species. Two, Yoda's kind of known to check in on people even while dead. Like seems to do that. Seems to hang out.
Yeah.
I mean, he speaks
True.
to Ahsoka, not dead, of course. He speaks to Ezra. Uh, he obviously trains Luke. He speaks to Luke after his passing. He doesn't really. Okay, he kind of speaks to Rey, but I mean, like everyone speaks to Rey, so I don't know if that counts.
Technically Leia as well. In the novelization, it talks about that. But yeah.
That's right. So
Um.
Yoda's known of reaching out, and then
Good
I
point.
think to me the other option is I don't like any of the alive Jedi options. I really don't. Um,
Yeah.
Ezra, as we've talked about, just doesn't make sense. I don't see them pulling off Luke, um, mainly because I just don't
Yeah.
think I would like it, and I don't think a lot of people would like it. I mean, you can't have Mark Hamill show up. He's only supposed to be 5 years older than Return of the Jedi, so that doesn't work. I know the
Be very difficult to pull it
Sebastian
off
Stan is
without
like our
being people being like you.
yeah, like I feel like no one would like it. And I mean, even if he did some pretty good, like I think Luke looked pretty good in Return of the or in the Rise of Skywalker actually, but I feel like an extended shot of that really wouldn't work,
It'd be hard.
right? And then
Yeah.
whoever you show, you're asking to have to show more of, like kind of no
Right.
matter what. There has to be an extended sequence,
Committing to a long term, right? Or at least a little bit.
and the only Jedi to me that's alive that I like at all as an option is Cal Kestis. Um,
Assuming he's alive, right? Yeah.
assuming he's alive, right? I mean, that's a big assumption, of course, assuming that Cal Kestis is alive. But I mean, his actors, Cameron Monaghan, Hannigan, something along those lines. Sorry, I don't know everyone's names off the top of my head. But he's about, I think he's about 10 years younger, 9, 10 years younger than Cal would be likely in real life.
So
So
you
like,
could
it's not a
that'd
stretch.
be easier to pull
That's
off.
a lot better than 30, 40 years older than you're supposed to be, right? Um,
Right.
so, and I just don't think, I don't know, Cal would be cool and I'd be thrilled, but I just don't really think that's going to happen. And the other options I feel like just don't make sense. So,
Yeah,
a Force Ghost would be cool because then again, it would kind of also do with
that
like
would be cool.
Yoda wouldn't really save the day, right? But he could assist and help Grogu. And
Sure.
like, I would think just Yoda appearing to Grogu on the ship, even as a Force Ghost talking to him, would be super cool. Not like a big
Yeah.
deal thing. So,
Yeah. So last thing too on my mind is Esposito already has said that there's going to be some.
some
There
action.
was supposed to be some major lightsaber action, right? So we don't know. I think everyone assumed it was going to be Ahsoka versus him, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case at all.
Pretty much definitely
It
no.
looks, yeah, it looks more like it's going to be Mando with his Beskar staff versus him, and that'll be interesting.
That'll be super
But that,
cool.
I mean, it's the finale, is the next episode, so there's definitely going to be some lightsaber action, right?
The action in this episode, as we mentioned, was fantastic. The pirates on the train fights were
True.
super good. Good hand-to-hand combat. Pretty fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the blasters watching Fennec Shand and Cara Dune just drop people. That was pretty awesome. So
Yeah,
this was a
they're
good episode
sniping
for
like
action.
crazy.
And I can't imagine we're
I've,
going to get less next episode.
right. Yeah, it's going to be very awesome to see how they do that. If it's going to be all on his ship or what, I don't know.
Yeah, that's like my biggest question, honestly. Like, my biggest uncertainty is, are we landing
Where is
somewhere?
this going down,
Or
right?
is it...
Yeah,
Because I feel like they're not going to board the ship. But, I mean, they could.
yeah,
But they're going to land at Camino? Like, where are they going? If they land
yeah.
at Camino, that'd be pretty cool. But
That would
I
be freaking awesome, actually, and that would make sense that they're heading to Camino, maybe, or something.
just
That'd be
because,
epic.
I mean, we know um,
Can you imagine Boba seeing
Boba's
that?
like, the
He's
fuck?
like, well, he's like, I know exactly where to go. I know these places by heart. That'd be,
he
oh,
pulls up
dude.
he pulls up
Okay.
the coordinates, and Boba
Oh,
Fett's like, Camino, and he's like, you've heard of it? He's like, once or twice, possibly.
dude, possibly, dude. If um, if they did that, it would be so cool. Like, obviously, we've always said Camino in the show would be cool with the whole cloning stuff,
Yeah, especially
but
because the
and that
Doctor
was
obviously
before
has
we
the
even
Kaminoan symbol on himself. So obviously there's connection, and we know
right,
Kaminoans are the number one experts in genetics in Star Wars. That's just a fact, cloning or not.
right. But now that we thought that was going to be a crazy cool option
And yeah,
before
there's
we knew
just going to
Boba
be
Fett
eight
was going to be
episodes.
in
So
it.
next episode is the last episode. This is the finale. No
Yeah,
episode 9, which is honestly the most heartbreaking thing I've heard in my life.
it's come and gone so fast. But anyways, if they showed up to Camino with Boba, it makes it a million times cooler. I'd just be freaking sick to see the slave land back on.
I mean, that's like the ultimate fan dream, actually. Like, before it was super cool,
Yeah,
but like with Boba, it would actually just
yeah,
be almost so poetic. As long as he doesn't die, because if he died on Camino, that would also be like really poetic.
yeah.
But it would
I don't
also
want
like,
any deaths.
yeah, no one
What if
wants
he
to
shows
die.
up and kills Tanwi? It's like I never liked that long neck. No, I'm just kidding.
I hate you. You let that Jedi kill my
Man,
dad. Oh, that was
good
also
stuff.
awesome. There was the joke where they're trying to figure out, so to go into um, the sneak into the ISB agent's place, the
Oh,
Empire. Mayfield obviously has to go, right?
that
And
was
they're
great.
like, hey, you know, who can go? And Fennec's like, I'm wanted by everyone. Cara Dune literally has a tattoo of the rebellion on her face, so she's not an option. Mando, wears the helmet. He ends up going, but Boba, they look at him. They're like, what about you? And he's like, let's just say they might recognize my face. Freaking
Yeah,
awesome. That's
it's
like
one of
Star Wars
those
comedy
familiar
gold.
faces. Yeah, no, it really is, and it's just,
It was such a good
it's
episode.
amazing.
This is honestly like, I didn't expect this episode to probably land in like my top 5, but it's probably like one of my top 5 of. the
Yeah,
series so far. I mean, I
it's
understand
awesome.
there's only 16, but they're all so good that it's actually
It's
extremely hard
hard.
to rank them.
Yeah,
So
it's been awesome.
probably a Jedi. It's exciting. We definitely will be doing this next episode. And if we hear any rumors and stuff, we'll definitely be prepared. Make sure to stay tuned and check out our stuff on social media. I know Cody and I were extremely busy today listening to an investor meeting. That was actually really fun. Everyone was like, "Hey, what'd you do for your birthday?" And I'm like, "Well, I watched the Disney investors meeting." And they're like, "Are you invested in Disney?" I was like, "Well, kind of, but not really. Not with money. I don't have money. What are you talking about?"
My love and my time and my heart is invested in Star Wars.
But yeah, so there's definitely lots of cool stuff coming out, and I guess something that we have hugely to look forward to after the Mandalorian. We don't know how long, but there is a confirmed Mandalorian um, gallery afterwards as well,
Yes.
which was, if you did not watch it, the Mandalorian gallery was fantastic. It was Favreau, Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy most of the time. I don't think all the time. Deborah Chow, all of the directors kind of sitting down and discussing, and there's 8 episodes, and they actually go through the you know just kind of talk about what it was like, focusing on the different directors' visions, how it was like building up characters, the special effects, an episode just about the music, an episode all of them appreciating how Star Wars impacted their lives, which is one of the coolest episodes. It was such a well done documentary series, and it's so cool that they're gonna have another one. So Mando isn't gonna be
Yeah,
completely gone from our lives.
I can't imagine how cool this next one's gonna be. If it's
'Cause,
anything like the first, though, we're in for a
dude,
treat.
Favreau's gonna geek out so hard talking about how excited he was to bring Boba back. He's
Oh yeah,
such an Legends geek. He is.
yeah,
You
for
can really
real.
tell in
And then
those.
Filoni talking about Ahsoka, and just there's
Filoni's
just gonna
like my
it's just gonna
creation.
be it's gonna be insane.
It's
It's
gonna be a
gonna
good
be
one.
so insane.
So, well, maybe Cody and I will actually start doing a review on those because we didn't do that last time. So maybe we could start talking about that
That'd be
next time.
cool.
So I think that's all, folks. May the force be with you. Come hang out, talk to Cody and I on social media in the coming week, and we'll see you here next week to cry about the finale of Mandalorian season 2. See you, everybody.
It's just the way.
Save the baby.